think that got our guest rocking in the green room there. He must like a bit of rave music. I think we'll ask him about that when we see him. Mark Hurst from the agency is joining us a little bit later on, but not until we've said hello to you, Ben, and heard a little about the industry news. How are you? How you doing, mate?
I'm doing pretty well, thank you. It's been a very productive week for me this week. I've got a property viewing, talked a bit about it last week. Hopefully, fingers crossed, all goes well, I'll be able to present something really interesting on the show soon as well. In more weather news, it's quite cold up here now, Vazra, so I've got a new tactic to combat the cold, which is I'm trying to drink white wine to trick my brain into thinking that it's warm at the moment.
Is it working?
Not so far, no. I don't think I've drunk enough.
I had you down as maybe quaffing a full-bodied red. Who doesn't like a full-bodied red? I know I do. And I was thinking I might go there this evening, but instead, I'm a little bit in the condition you may have been in last week. A little bit of something knocking at the door. And thinking I need to fortify. I was going to have a Beral, but I think I'll go for a stout first, and then a medicinal Beral a little bit later on. But I'll cheers you with some Cerveja Preto, a Superboc Preto here this evening. So chin chin, everybody. Chin, chin. Thank you for joining us. What an excellent way to start a live stream. Brilliant. Sarah Davey joining us as well a little bit later on too. So what have you got in terms of industry news this week?
It's been a bit of a quiet week this week, but I managed to spot out a couple headlines that kind of piqued my interest. The biggest one for me being that the Banco de Portugal, so Portugal's central bank, is now introducing a mandatory 4% capital buffer for smaller banks' mortgage portfolios. What does that mean for people like us, people that are going to go out and take a mortgage? Not much, really. Nothing's going to change in the process. What it is an indicator of, however, is that there might be some instability with mortgage rates up and coming.
Yep, very good.
In other news as well, a small little blimp I cop off Supercasa is that the Munson Association, which is a private mutual fund here in Portugal, are looking to buy property in Portugal to lease out to younger people at discounted rates.
Okay, how might that work?
Well, Montpellier Association, private mutual fund, pile a bunch of money together. They currently are about 50 million per year, so probably 200 houses they're going to buy year on year. It's a 4-year program, so a total of 800 houses they're looking to buy to then rent out to younger people, being their primary audience at discounted rates. They also have a program with senior citizens, if I remember correctly, where instead of compensating senior citizens with capital, with money, they're happy to pay for them to enter a retirement home or retirement community for the duration of the rest of their lives.
That's very good, isn't it? With a social target, as well as obviously making some money for their fund holders and fund members there. Very good, thank you. Is that everything from you so far?
Those are the two big headlines for this week for me. It's been, like I said, it's been a bit quiet on my end.
No worries. I've got a bit of a thread over at the Portugal Club. Grok came up with these Portugal real estate headlines for me earlier this evening. I'll put the link in case you want to have a look at this and other stories that we've stacked here on the real estate development and architecture news thread. Record sales ahead, 170,000 home transactions expected this year. That's up 9% on last year, driven by falling interest rates and strong foreign demand. Still, Mark Hurst, who's joining us in a moment, might like to comment on that. Prices still rising here in Portugal, but cooling in the capital. 5.8% national growth forecast for the year. Lisbon slowing, they say, from 19% peaks as affordability bites. Americans surging in. US buyers now 18% of Lisbon foreign deals, it appears. Major US brand Corcoran just opened its first Portugal office, November 21. And tax warning for US owners. 62% of American owners overpay thousands yearly by missing treaty credits and mixing up FATCA and FBAR rules. Not exactly connected with that, but the mishaps that can befall people changing their dollars into euros. Sarah will definitely be picking up on that when she joins us in about 20 minutes' time. Excellent. I think that's everything, isn't it, from a news point of view there, Ben? Shall we bring our guest of the evening from the real estate industry? And what do you know about Mark Hurst before we bring him on?
Sorry?
What do you know about Mark Hurst before we bring him on?
Mark Hurst, I met him at Carl Hyde's barbecue. And we
well, anybody who's anybody will have been at Carl Hyde's barbecue.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Well, say no more. Let's give him a nice big round of applause. Hey, you were spotted at Carl Hyde's barbecue.
Listen, if you're not invited to Carl Hyde's barbecue, then you're a nobody in this country.
Event of the year, event of the season.
Yes, sadly, I feel bad now. I didn't make it this year, but I have been in the
Even
previous 2 years.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, it was good this year because a couple announced their child's gender. And yeah, everyone got in there, the sort of pink and the blue, and everything got really exciting, and the couple were really in love with each other, and it was just nice to see. They were from the Philippines, so it's nice to see that multiculturalism kind of creeping in with into this country.
In Carl Hyde's garden, yes, very.
Carl Hyde's garden, exactly. Yeah, so that was it. Look, I mean, I just want to make a comment on the you mentioned just earlier about property market here. Look, at the far end, at the higher end, the property market here in Portugal is mimicking America. In what I read, what I know, one of the forums that I belong to, it's the higher end in America. We're talking, above 1.1 million, is well exceeding, the lower end. And I think that mimics Portugal, what's happening here, particularly as we have a lot of Americans moving over. And I just thought that was an interesting fact that you mentioned, and I've recently been reading about it. The owner of the property that I want to talk about has a lot of affinity with America as well. So he kind of confirmed that with me as well.
We're looking forward to seeing this beautiful property of yours in Ericeira, the very fashionable and lovely Ericeira. It comes up in a lot of conversations with foreigners who find it utterly beautiful, which it is, of course, very picturesque, bustling, very exciting, great place to be for surfers. But before we go to that, Mark, let's find out more about you. How did you get into the industry? How did you get to be working with the agency?
Well, let me actually take a step back. And my affinity with Portugal, my parents moved here from Great Britain in 1965. And so I was born here. I lived through the revolution here. And
really?
My father came here from Liverpool because he couldn't get a job. He was an accountant. He was an accountant for 46 years, man and boy, his entire life. And there was no job for him in the UK at the time because he didn't go to Oxford or Cambridge or Bristol or big universities. So he responded to an advert one day in a British paper asking for Brits to come and be accountants in Portugal.
In which year was this?
That was 1965.
Amazing. Good year.
Yeah, both my parents are Liverpudlians, and I was born here in 1968. And my family have had an association with Portugal all the way since then. I mean, we all belong to the various British clubs and expat society here, and not just British, but expats, that have been here for many years. I belong to the Royal British Club, for example. And
amazing. When the Coronation Revolution happened, and you lived through it as a child.
I lived through it as a child. I mean, obviously, I don't remember any of it, but yeah, I lived through that. My parents lived through it. They lived through the earthquake that happened in 19. Oh God, now I'm testing myself.
Yes.
67, was it? Yeah. My mother and father had to run out naked into the garden with holding me and my sister.
Well, you can take people out of Liverpool, but you can't take Liverpool out of people, right? I think it's fair to say, possibly. Wow, that is quite incredible. So what a wonderful connection you have to the country. And I could have sworn you stepped off a plane from the north of England just a few weeks ago. How did you manage to keep such a
sun just 2 months ago, so I haven't got a permanent tan anymore. But look, my parents immediately fell in love with this place, and even though they went through really hard times bringing me up, I mean, I was fed on sardines every day.
You're a good advert for that.
When they were cheap, I mean, now they're so expensive to buy in restaurants. It's yeah.
You remember the days when Lisbon was just fields, right?
Hey, I remember the days when we didn't get any tourists in Cascais, which is where I live. And now there's lots of tourists, lots of action, and it's good for the country. It's really good.
Yeah. Amazing. What a fabulous connection. Any further questioning, Ben, before we move on to Mark's property?
Not a mind. I'm excited to get into this property personally.
Yeah, let's take a look then. To give us a bit of a backstory on this, then, if you will, Mark. Actually, no, hold on a minute. You didn't tell us how you got to be working with the agency and how you got into real estate.
I had a Portuguese girlfriend, and I worked with another agency before, and Irish Neto, who is the managing partner of the agency now. I was working with him. I joined him, and she was
very good.
And I always wanted to get into real estate because my mother even told me when I was younger that I should have got into it because it was kind of an exciting business, but not at the lower level, you know, the higher level. And I always kind of just didn't see it. So I worked most of my life in IT and telecoms. And then when she introduced me to, and we're still very good friends now to this day, when she introduced me to real estate, and I sold my first property, £1 million property, in my condominium actually in the first month, and I was hooked. And I just thought, this is a fantastic industry to be in. I mean, you know, you get to see how the other half live, I suppose.
And not many people start that well, do they? That was a good. You hit the ground running there.
Yeah, and it was just I was hooked, and I loved walking around, you know, a new home and assessing it and seeing what its value is. And I don't know, it's a lot more interesting than IT. Let's leave it that way.
Okay, fair enough. 1969, apparently, the earthquake, February 28th. I must have been barely in my teens, says Pete. Thank you for watching, Pete. And thank you to everybody who's here this evening watching the show. We've got Jackie as well, who's tuned in, and a few other people haven't declared themselves yet. If you do want some help finding a home in Portugal, you know what to do. Drop us a line or just say hi in the chat, and we'll help you as best we can with any aspect, actually, of moving to Portugal and enjoying and living your life here. Don't forget to sign up at the Portugal Club as well. Let's have a look at this wonderful property that Mark has brought our way this evening. So, yeah, how did you get to be involved with this beauty then, Mark?
Okay, so this is through social media and my networking and whatnot, so as a developer in Ericeira, let me just explain. Ericeira is really up and coming. It's still very affordable, unlike a lot of other places around Portugal. In particular, your Cascais and your Estorils that are really kind of going up in my. Ericeira has kind of gone from a Cascais style fishing village to becoming very cosmopolitan. I mean, there's a really healthy mix of locals as well as expats, and it's really centered around activity in Ericeira because you've got your surfing, you've got amazing beaches, you've got skate parks, skateboarding parks, you've got all of the amenities you want. And then if you go into the center of the town, there's several streets that just are restaurants. You've got an amazing choice of where to eat. And it's getting even better. It's becoming more and more of a kind of, a utopia, if you like, compared to, a lot of the other. So you're 35 minutes from Cascais, you're 40 minutes from Lisbon and Lisbon Airport, and it's still affordable. It's still a great place to live, and there are little pockets of community building up around Ericeira. My property is right in the middle of one of those, the more popular pockets, parts of Ericeira. It was originally designed by the developer, and by the way, I work with this developer on quite a few other properties. So it's not just this property. I can also take you around other developments and properties in the area. She's actually the #1 developer in Ericeira. It was designed because the owner wanted to build a family with his girlfriend at the time and have children, and they had dogs, and it was really around a family sort of lifestyle. Even though they actually in the basement going to have a poker table, which I don't know, maybe not so, but he unfortunately that relationship didn't last. So he still lives in Portugal. He's from the tech business, He's a CEO, and he's got another project that he's going to build up in Lisbon, and so he wants to sell this one. It's not been built fully at the moment. It's expected for delivery around January. It's on 4 levels. It's a 4-bedroom, or let's say a 3+1 scenario. All of the bedrooms are en suite. It's around 3,300 meters of the property, but then it's also 6,000 in total plot land. On the basement level, you've got a huge sauna and a cold plunge, a laundry area, or everything in the property is Miele. It's all air conditioned, and in all the bathrooms, it's underfloor heating. But when you go out of the basement, you've actually got a bar downstairs.
I saw that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is an absolute beauty, isn't it? Forgive me if you heard me castigating my dog there.
No, I've got a dog here as well. Let me show you.
Well, there's a dog in my studio tonight, and he's okay. So never worked with animals. Neither of us. He's like scratching up. He's not meant to be on the sofa in the studio here. He's found his way in, and he's making the right noise here, and that was meant to be muted. So apologies. I just realised I had my I think my laptop mic working. Your dog is clearly much better behaved. This is a beauty, Mark, and that's the number to call you on 913-096-807 for further details on this and any other properties you've got. What do you think, Ben?
I'm really loving it so far. I did notice that there's a bit of a Lego Star Wars Stormtrooper figure in the living room, I believe. Is there a particular story behind that? Or?
Yeah, there is. That's true. Didn't notice that. Don't pick up on that.
And the billiard table, I thought it's amazing, isn't it? The wine cellar and billiard.
But yeah, and the rooftop on the rooftop bar is going to be spectacular because you've got 180-degree view from Peniche all the way around to Cabo da Rocha and Sintra Hills. So I mean, as far as views are concerned, you've probably got the best view in all of Ericeira. Amazing. And that's why the owner chose that particular plot, because he wanted to have that, view, 180-degree view and beyond, and when just talking a 180C view, he wanted to have that even more all the way through to the Sintra Hills.
Well, as you can see, amazing visuals from the agency as ever, immaculately presented. Mark Hurst taking care of business here. And is there anything else you want to tell us before we go talk to Sarah Davey this evening, Mark? What else would you like to share with us this evening?
Well, I think the most important thing is that the place hasn't been finished yet. So if any of your viewers are interested in having a look at it, or they still will have an option to change some of the features of the property. But everything from the bathrooms, which are all marble and heated flooring, and everything has been chosen by the owner because he had it as a forever home. When you have something as a forever home, you are going to buy the best of the best products for that property. And that's what he's done. Even though he's not going to live in it in the end and he sold it, it will be always the best product. So, it's a forever home.
Good to know.
Yeah. Also, I want to mention, there are international schools in the area. So, if it's for a family, international schools, and your neighbours are going to be a mixture of locals and expats, and that's fantastic for Portugal.
Very good, Mark. Great to have you here. Hope you come back with equally beautiful properties. Sadly, for the building it. Yeah, go on, Ben. Sorry,
I just had one more question as well. Does this property have a predicted finish date? When will it be?
So the predicted finish date is January. It's slowed down a little bit because maybe when the new buyer comes in, he wants to change a few things over. So I've asked personally if they could actually slow it down a little bit. So, it can be delivered in January, but in February. And also, one of the other things is they I've said this already, but they haven't skimped on the energy certificate. The energy certificate hasn't been given because you can't give one to a property unless it's been delivered, but it's going to be A+.
Oh, perfect. That's always good to know as well.
Yeah.
And
So
I imagine it also comes without any furnishings too, so it's something you have. It's not a kind of key in hand deal ready to move in.
No, it's not. No, it won't be that way. But yeah, I mean, on the way from Sintra to Ericeira, there are tens of furniture shops, really good high quality furniture shops on the way. So they wouldn't have to go very far to find the right furniture for the place. I mean,
you
it's
don't want an
the
interior
thing I want to
designer.
emphasize here is Ericeira is becoming a real hotspot. And I think get in there now, then it's a good time to do it.
Yes,
I was about to say, there's no lack of interior designers in Portugal that you can hire, is there?
Yeah,
No.
I mean, to make it your dream home, you want to be hiring an interior design professional, don't you? And making the most of that beautiful structure there. Excellent stuff, Mark. Thank you for being with us this evening. We'll see you again soon, I'm sure, and good luck with that.
Thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers. All the best.
Yes,
Take care. Bye for now. There he goes. Very nice.
Property.
Beautiful, eh? Do you know Ericeira? Have you been there?
I've been a couple times. I got invited to play rugby down there.
Ah, that's why they have the big beach rugby tournament
Exactly,
every year.
yes.
Yes, Colin's a big fan of that. Our friend Colin, who does our motoring program. Yes, absolutely beautiful. Ericeira. If you haven't heard of it and you're looking for alternatives to the usual suspects, you might say, here in Portugal, Ericeira, definitely a contender as a place to go and have a look. The very worst thing that can happen if you go to Ericeira and don't want to buy a property there is you'll have a beautiful day out on the southernmost part of the Silver Coast, some people call it. Let's give her a nice big round of applause. And bring on the Sarah Davey. Good evening to you, Sarah.
Boa noite.
Hola, boa noite. Very good. Yeah, what's going on? How warm is Cascais this evening?
Actually, it's a little bit warmer, 18. So that's quite good. It's been quite cold, unfortunately.
-2, I call that. Anything, well, 20 is the new 0. So that's actually is the equivalent of -2. But not too bad. Not too bad. It's definitely sounds like some improvement there. You're with us, of course, to look at the currency situation. People exchanging their dollars to euros or their pounds or the Canadian loonie or whatever they've got. And I think Ben's got a few questions for you.
Yes, if you don't mind, before we begin, Sarah, because we might be having new viewers or some people might have missed the episode that you're on here last. Could you give a brief introduction as to who you are, what you do, and perhaps how you came to Portugal?
Absolutely. So my name is Sarah and I work for Spartan FX. Essentially, we're an international currency specialist, so we help people move their money around the world. But a lot of our clients, yes, are Americans, Canadians, people from the UK, moving their money to Portugal, whether that be for your visa, paying a lawyer, renting or buying property, whether you're moving here permanently or hoping to, or it's something you're looking as an investment or a holiday home. We can help make that transaction more affordable. We can help manage the exchange rate fluctuations, which we'll go into in a minute, and also the sort of compliance and money laundering side of things. That's the sort of things we're taking care of to help make the process easier and the whole process really stress-free. I mean, I've moved here myself to Portugal, so I know how stressful it can be to move country, also to deal with a visa process. There really is a lot to think about. There's really the things that are high on your list, and this is very low on your list. Often you leave it to the last minute. It's not till someone says you need to make a payment, but it's just really getting people to think about this in advance, because then you've got more options, and at that point you may actually save more money.
One thing I like as well about Sparta FX, compared to like Wise or Revolut, is the customer service aspect as well. The ability to actually speak to a person when you make a transaction is quite big.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's always personal preference. Some people, want to just do it themselves. I mean, we do have an online platform, obviously on the smaller amounts, and we don't have a card like the likes of Wise or Revolut have. But a lot of our clients are moving larger sums of money, or even on the smaller amounts, they really want someone to speak to. As I've said, it's a stressful time, not just sort of moving country, but also when we're talking about property purchases, we're talking about large sums of money. So there is a trust factor, knowing that all your money is protected, but also building that trust and relationship with the person that you're dealing with, knowing where your money is at all times. It's really, really important.
Yes, and entering on a bit of a negative note, speaking about stressful times. Last time you were here, we were speaking about the currency exchange rates internationally. We spoke a lot about the dollar and how that's gone down recently. And the main reason for you being on the show tonight as well is to kind of follow up on that. What would you say are the big changes from last month to now?
Well, there's a couple of things. So if we're talking about looking at Americans that are selling US dollars and buying euros at the moment, I mean, obviously this year we've seen a bit of volatility. Really, it's sort of the back and forth with the tariffs. Trump wants to impose them. Then there's a counter proposition by whichever country. So there's a bit of back and forth. There's been a lot of volatility that we've seen this year. Also, again, the trade-off with inflation and interest rate cuts. There's a lot of pressure on the Fed to cut interest rates. Trump really wants interest rates to be lower because it would help stimulate the economy and also help make it cheaper to pay back debt. We've seen that the US government has been closed. It has now reopened, but there's a bit of a backlog of data. So that's where the markets are a little bit jumpy because we're waiting for all that information to come through. It's been closed for some time. So we're a little bit really in the blind as to what's going on fully. So as that starts to come out, that's where we might see a bit of volatility as well. And again, going back to sort of, are they going to cut interest rates? Again, it depends on inflation data and the data that's coming out. Inflation is really still too high. So that's what we're looking at really in the short term. If you're in the UK, we've got the budget that's coming out this week, and there's obviously going to be potentially some volatility with that. There's talks of a sort of Mansion style tax, maybe some tax on national insurance for employers. That there is going to be taxes somewhere because they need to find money from somewhere. It's just where and what that looks like, and then what the impact is on that, because obviously there's already a strain on businesses as there is. See if there's more tax on the higher income or sort of the wealthy. They're talking about obviously that the negative impact of those types of people wanting to leave the UK as well. So I think ultimately in the short term we might see a bit more volatility, and I think really no one's got a crystal ball, so we don't know exactly what's going to happen. It's just about what can we do to help manage those fluctuations. So I did a case study or an example recently of a client who bought some money back in April to buy a property. And I think it's this sort of psychological mindset. I mean, we're all wanting a better exchange. We all want to save more money. But sometimes it's a case of really understanding what your situation is, what your budget is. Because with the client at the time, at the beginning of April, I think it was about the 8th of April, was looking, I think it was about a 250,000 euro property they're looking to buy. And I think with the amount of US dollars that they had from a sale of property in the US, I think they were just short. I think the money that they could get with what they had was short by about 1,000 euros for what they needed. And we had seen it lower, better rate of exchange earlier in the month by maybe a week. So I think they thought maybe the rate might go up. So therefore they waited, they decided they'd wait till completion, and in 2 weeks later, they came to make the payment because they'd been away on holiday anyway. But the rate had moved about 6%. So suddenly they were short by 15,000 euros. So again, it's sort of looking at that kind of thing, is that what is your budget? That yes, we'd ideally look for a better rate of exchange, but right now, what can you afford? What does that look like? And sometimes it's just about giving people peace of mind. So I think it all boils down to the client, what's your situation? And it may be that having those conversations earlier, can we buy your euros in advance? Can you do a quarter, half of what you need? And then that spreads that risk. Also for property specifically, we have a contract that allows people to secure a rate today for a future payment. So if you've got completion in 3 months or 4 months time, you can lock a rate today. It just needs a 10% deposit. It's not a cost or a charge, but it locks into the rate for that future payment. Now the benefit there is you've secured the rate, your budget. 90% of that can still be in your higher interest earning account in the US or wherever country you're in. So you're still earning interest on it and you've still secured the rate. So yes, in that time frame, if the rate does improve, you are locked into that rate. But again, it's really more of a budgeting tool. So that's why it's good to, as I said, understand what's your situation, how much money have you got available, what's your budget, what's your time frames, and really what volatility we're seeing at the moment.
You did mention sorry, Carl, do you want to go first?
No, not at all. Go ahead.
You did mention there that 6%, that shocked me personally. That's quite a substantial movement, especially in the time space of a week. Would you say, I mean, currently is a bit of an exception with where the dollar's concerned because of the volatility of the political situation there, of course. But would you say 6% is a fairly common movement within that time frame?
2 weeks, yeah, I'd say so. I mean, we can see within a day or a couple of days, we can see a 1 or 2% change. So yes, it really isn't impossible. Depends on what pandemic, war breaks out. Anything can happen and can really cause dramatic. I mean, that's what we've seen. I mean, really, since the beginning of the year, we've seen the US dollar probably drop against the euro, maybe 13-14%. So it's not to put people off. I mean, I would recommend anyone come to Portugal. I love Portugal. It's the best decision I ever made to come, and there's so many positives of living here. So not to put people off, but it's how do you sort of manage that going forward? And actually, if the impact of the sort of tariffs next year maybe make the US dollar deteriorate even further, actually the rates we're seeing at the moment would then look good. So again, it's just managing. I mean, when I say that we've seen like some 1 or 2% movement, that's when we see a spike in the market, clients have decided to buy some euros again to sort of spread that risk. And as you said about house prices, are they going up? Well, actually, that's another element to sort of factor in. People say, is it a good time to buy property? Well, house prices are going up, the rate's going down. So actually, is it a good time to buy now before it gets more expensive? Again, that's not my expertise around that. That's yours on the property, but it's an element to think about.
Yeah.
Like with currency exchange, it's always dangerous to make these predictions. But one thing that I read this week as well is that CBRE, which, remembering that Codwell Bankers Richard Ellis, one of the largest real estate investment firms in the world, quite positive about Portuguese real estate market at the moment. 8% strong year-on-year growth. They don't see signs of it slowing down. Although what I found interesting in the little report they released, this is a report they released a while ago as well, about 2 months ago, is that the highest growing sectors aren't necessarily for habitation or residency, but in retail and hotels.
Very interesting. Yeah. Yep. Interesting. Portugal remains strong. The dollar also, looking at those charts, the euro is looking good, isn't it, against those other currencies? Not great news if you're being paid in pounds or dollars at the moment, as some of us might be. And you mentioned your joy living here, Sarah. We live in the age, don't we, of the YouTube influencer. I call them now-sayers rather than naysayers when they're talking about Portugal. And it was a different picture when you first chose to move here. And we see more of this sort of negativity, don't we, about Portugal? I'm done. It's over. These videos that you see. It's all relative, isn't it? It sounds like you're still having a great time here.
I think there's a couple of things. One is really to find your people. It's important to build a community around you, and it's quite easy to. You have to get out there. They're not going to necessarily knock on your door, but you have to make the effort. But there's plenty of expat meetups or things you can go to try and make friends, and everybody's very welcoming. So I think that's important, because I think once you get some good people around you, that I think encourages you to, or helps you settle, encourages you to stay. And I think also we talk about costs, and yes, it is getting more expensive. Not as much for me as it is for an American. Yes, it is. But I think on the flip side, you've got to look at the cost of living and other elements here that perhaps they don't realize until they get here. I mean, certainly for an American, the health insurance, I pay about 100 euros for health insurance, private health insurance, but I have the full cover and I have dental. It's all singing, all dancing. And that's compared to an American, that's really cheap. And even people that are older that I meet that might have different healthcare to me are still paying quite similar prices. The shopping in the supermarket, going out for dinner, wine's cheaper than water. The utilities as well. I think when you add all that up, that's a good consideration as well, that people perhaps don't fully realize that they're saving a lot on other things.
I haven't met many foreigners, I have to say, recently who are saying, I can't wait to get to England, or I can't wait to move to the United States. Still, the direction of travel seems to be in this direction. So, Sarah, thanks very much indeed. Sorry, I interrupted there, Ben. You may have other questions for Sarah before we conclude tonight's show.
No, I think we've covered what we needed to cover today as well.
So we'll look forward to another visit from you, Sarah. You're happy to come back on a monthly basis and update us with what's going on in the currency markets and how you can help people?
Absolutely, and happy to share. I like to travel around Portugal, so there's loads of lovely places to visit. And I think with the thing I would say for people that even if you land in the typical places that people know about, there's still so many other places that you've not visited that you might find that that's your home.
Yeah, absolutely. And even just going to the capital, I was at the Oceanarium for maybe the third or fourth time last week. Lisbon Games Week last Friday. It's just lovely to pop to the capital as well. Unless when you're trying to catch a coach, the Linha Azul suddenly says, "Sorry, trains are suspended," and you've got 2 stops to go and 20 minutes to get to the coach station. But that's another story. All adds to the excitement of visiting the capital. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Ben. Nice big round of applause for you and to Mark, who was with us earlier on. Check out his property at the agency, of course, where you can find Ben Austin too, who will help you find a home here in Portugal. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care and bye.